Call the meeting to order, roll call.
Okay, Mayor Westner.
Yep.
Bowler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Here.
Tom.
Yes.
Bolton.
Yep.
Reese.
Here.
Do we have anybody that would like to speak during public forum? Consent agenda, any additions, corrections?
I do want to make sure that everybody got the word that we added a beer and wine permitted for Dark Horse Haberdashery. And I added that on Friday, so it was appropriately posted. But that would be beer and wine, like I say, for Dark Horse Haberdashery. This is a new business downtown that replaces the bait shop. And they will do bait and an expanded line of more like an outfitter, some more outdoor stuff. They we're talking with them today, trying to get contact information from them. It sounded like they were opening maybe on Thursday, trying to have that ready for us.
Just in there, we are gonna have the bid appointment.
Great.
We have a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Bolton.
Yes.
Bolton.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing on the proposed amendment to the budget. Do we have any public input?
No, I've received no input, but let's take a look at page 4, if you would please. And this is more detail on what the amendment is about. It does have some differences in the revenue items. That's the top half. $285,000 additional in intergovernmental, and that's that WQI grant, and then also that donation to the library for Phillips's. That was unanticipated revenues. Okay, now on what is listed here as other financing sources, it's $2 million reduction. That's reducing the lagoon debt. So just to reflect that more accurately where we are in the project, you'll see that revenues were reduced by $2 million. You also see expenses were reduced by $2 million. And then the transfers in that changed a little bit. We had agreed we were going to transfer from the general fund to the lagoon and to garbage, and those transfers will be made at the end of the year. Bottom half of the page is the expenditures. Public Works there, you see $55,000 additional. That's out of road use tax for street maintenance. $36,000 again reduction on expenses, and that again has to do with timing of projects, and that's the timing of the Camp Crescent project. We budgeted for that project to be occurring now, but it hasn't started yet. $7,000 difference there in community and economic development is for some marketing and some additional advertising. The general government item there is up $35,000. That portion is due to attorney's fees. The capital project, the expenses are that $199,700, so about $200,000 higher than budget, but that is largely the splash pad, and then also purchasing the property for the library. Now the business enterprises, so that's all of our utilities. You see that it has a large reduction there. Remember, I told you that we'd reduced the lagoon expenses by $2 million. So what this actually is accounting for some increased expenses there also. So we reduced the lagoon by $2 million, but then there's the water well project, the water plant roof project, one large lift station project, and then it does include higher fees for lagoon engineering, and then there's some additional expenses there for water and sewer maintenance that we had some additional maintenance work done. And again, the transfers, this would be the transfers out for general and going to the lagoon and to garbage. That would be the proposed difference. Again, it looks weird because basically both the revenues and the expenses are proposed to go down quite a bit, but that has to do really with the timing of the lagoon. But any questions on the amendment? I can take them.
No questions, we'll close the public hearing. Resolution 1828 is amending the current budget. We have that motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
roll call.
And who seconded?
I do.
Tammy.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Waltman.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, 1829, that's our loan agreement for above ground.
Yes, so this is issuing $700,000 in debt. It's financed by electric revenues. So this is that electric revenue note. And let's take a look at page 15. That maybe tells us more than anything. That is the debt schedule. You've seen that debt schedule before, but you see how it is divided then between the two banks. Farmer State Bank is $380,000 and Iowa State Bank is $320,000. The interest rate across all of the years of the issuance is 3.5%. And everything is in order for an anticipated issuance on June 1st.
And they have started.
Yeah, the project has started, so they're
They're doing a good
well
job.
underway. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion on 1829.
I'll make it.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Reese,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Stankin,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Walton.
Yes.
Okay, some more on the lagoon project. Todd?
That work, ever hear me?
Yep.
Talked with Bob Beans for a little bit this afternoon, apologize he wasn't able to be here tonight, but, Scott and Bob had talked about another option, on the lift station as far as changing the location of it, which my understanding is down kind of west or east of the Dollar General store along the highway there, and we'd run a new trunk sewer from the plant over that location, and then force main over where the lagoon would go. Had some discussion beyond that?
Yeah, just that, so if everybody could grab this one that was handed out to you. Just, this had been talked about before and really nothing too much done with it. It's talked about again today, and I just wanted to make sure that we at least address this as an option. The option being that, there'd be no new sewer lines basically installed north of the creek. What this would say is that all of the sewage would then end up down at Jamie Puden's lift station. Okay, so that's at the end of Jamie Puden's lane, and here I have circled the green dot, and that's the location of that lift station. So what I want to explain a couple things. If you look at the right side of the picture, and you see all of the red lines, all the red lines are existing sewer mains. So that the proposed line that we had called the north trunk, or the one that goes down Quincy, that's what happens to it right now. It goes behind those businesses along the highway, jogs across the highway, and gets to that lift station at Jamie Puden's, is where it's pumped uphill to get to the existing treatment plant right now. Okay, so if we look at putting all the sewage into this central location at the Jamie Puden's lift station, the line from the west is already attended to. That's there. Okay, now paying different attention then to the existing sewer plant. You can see the two lines. There are two lines, actually three lines, that come into that sewer to the sewer plant, and I've marked that with an X. And so that red line that goes basically through the Raritan salvage yard, through some of Larry Hauser's land, okay, and then right out to the existing sewer plant. That's the main feed of the sewer that comes through town. So the idea was, could you get that line to feed straight down the highway to the east, to where it would get to that lift station at Jamie Puden's? So that's what I drew in there as a dashed black line. Okay, and this map that you're looking at has the sewer mains on it, but it also is the existing lay of the land. So those are all grade marks on it, so you can always tell roughly which areas are higher than any other areas. And you see where the X is, and it's around, I think that says 1234 underneath there, and down at the circle where the lift station is 1206. What that's telling you is that it's 28 feet lower down there at the lift station. So they don't know for sure that this thing works fine, but the lay of the land is such that it could be consistent and maybe be all right. There's some other things to consider there, though, and I've marked that with a Z. that Z line there, that catches stuff from up on the highway at Shotton's and Jacobson's. And those lines up there, they feed down that way and then straight down, down the county road out to the sewer plant. So, again, currently we have 3 ways that sewage gets out there to the plant. The other one is that existing green, that's a force main going out there.
So the line on the Z is just the ones from the highway? That is
basically.
not the west end of town, that all comes in, routes down through here?
No, route straight down the highway and then kind of drops down right around the viaduct area and then heads north. You know, that's my understanding. Am I right about that, Bill?
It splits off in different spots, but in general, that's right, Scott.
Okay.
Because some of it does go south down High Street, back down Fifth, but in general.
But I guess I just wanted to point out that Z line to you and make sure that you know that that's there. And it's problematic if we look at getting everything to drain to the east, to the Jamie Puden's lift station. You need to account for that somehow.
So is that gonna, put a lot of pressure on that lift station?
Sure, it's a big lift station. I guess any comments there, Todd, about what do we need to do to that? What I've called Jamie Puden's lift station.
We would need to upgrade that lift station to handle all the flow because essentially all your flow will be coming through that particular
Right.
lift station now, so we would need to upgrade that, which we would have done as part of the project anyway, so we basically cost shifting those dollars over to cover those. Cover that.
You know, I guess the things that happen, if you look at doing something like this, the other main part that I hadn't mentioned yet is the dashed red line. So that's the new force main coming out of the Puden's lift station, directly out there to the lagoon. And they would upsize that lift station enough there at Puden's that is the only lift station. It would pump directly into the lagoon from there.
Correct.
Okay, there'd be no lift station out at the lagoon.
You'd eliminate the 2 gravity sewers that we proposed as part of the project, and now you'd be looking at just one, most likely an 8-inch force main.
That lift station at the lagoon was gonna be like 30 feet deep, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that was a highly expensive outfit.
Yes, it was, but that picked up the north
I had a
end too.
conversation with a guy today that said that if we did a force main, we wouldn't have to de-water, they could actually.
Correct,
consolidate.
yeah, your force main will only be 5 feet deep.
Because a lot of the.
It's actually a little bit around the pump station where they constructed that, but it wouldn't be.
So we wouldn't have to go 30 feet is what you're saying?
Right,
Yeah, I'd have to look at the grades, but I don't anticipate being there that age.
but this would be a huge savings if we didn't have to de-water.
Correct, correct.
You know, and so that's it. And if you take a look at page 16 in your packet, that's just Bob's listing of cost savings from the last time. You know, and I want to take a look at the things. Let's look at 2A and 2B. You know, where he talked about replacing that north trunk with the force main, or deleting that north trunk. Well, basically, what you do when you look at something like this is delete that. So that you could look at that $360,000 less, but then also look at number 5, which is similar to what's proposed here about this would propose to replace the outfall line from the existing sewer plant with a force main instead, and they said that savings was $181,000. Just know that you can't add those two together and expect to get that amount of savings, because there's lots of additional work, of course, that's involved. And that's the other thing to point out to you is any of the dashed lines are still laying gravity feed sewer, which will still be pretty expensive type of sewer to lay, and it's, actually the quantities aren't that substantially different than where we were on the Judy Wilson sewer going over. But anyway, this was proposed as an option. I guess we just wanted to make sure to thoroughly discuss this as an option. If this is something you'd really like to take a look at, I certainly would encourage the council for the council meeting tonight to take no action, and we defer to Veenstra and Kim again for a couple weeks about actually having some real some engineering plans and costs put together on that.
So we're forcing everything through one pump station
Correct.
instead of,
What you would have been doing anyway, everything, previously at the original plans, everything would have come together at the lagoon and pumped up from there. So essentially what you're doing is pulling everything further south and then just pumping it, across the field.
On a force main.
Correct.
So you'll look at this and give us an idea of what our actual cost savings would be
Correct.
if we choose to do that. And I kinda like that idea better too, because if we were digging 30 feet down and say we have a problem with that line going through there, and
Correct.
to
In the future.
dig that up in the future if we had to, for, in 60 years, you know, I'll probably still be on the council, but,
Yeah.
you know. But, I mean, in case we did have a problem.
For sure.
That's would be a huge undertaking if we had to dig down 30 feet, and I can't remember how long that 30-foot dig would be, but that was quite substantial.
Yes, it was, it was.
So, I like this option, and I'd sure like to see what it costs to.
So there, will there be a 12-inch force main then across the field or an 8-inch?
Right now, I would assume an 8, maybe a 10, depends on the hydraulics.
Oh.
We were at an 8-inch previously, which was a lot shorter distance, but we'll see.
Want to
what
make
they
sure
can make
that's
some.
probably big.
Yeah.
If we decide to do this, do we have to rebid this, or?
I think that's one of the things Bob had talked about, whether that was an option you wanna pursue or not. I think we could at least put the costs together and, talk about it at the next meeting and then make a decision at that.
Yeah, I guess just know that decisions have to be made at the next meeting about these bids that we have. That's the last time that we can consider it, because we could hold the bids for 60 days, and that'll be the last council meeting.
So is this option, are you pleased with this option? Do you think this is a
Yes, I am.
viable thing?
And for the reason we've talked about, particularly the depth issue, I think
Yep.
One thing about it, you don't have to go across the creek, or under the creek.
we
We'll
would,
do it
but
once
certainly
instead of
not.
twice.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once, and it wouldn't be nearly as deep, obviously.
It makes more sense to do it this way than the way we're doing it.
Correct.
Because that dewatering, from what I get, that was an expensive thing in this bid process.
Yes, yeah.
Because we did that out, for the motel, and we had to give the contractor another $5,000 for 58 feet.
58 feet,
Yeah, so this is 8,500 feet?
yes.
There's a lot of money that we could hopefully save, because I think we owe it to the taxpayers to look at everything we can.
Oh, I agree.
my question is, okay, so you said we're always going to go to one station, and it comes in one station. Now, if we come into the station, how far are we pushing it to the lagoon? How many feet would you say that is?
Looking at, I don't know off the top of my head for sure, but I'm gonna guess at least 1,500 feet maybe.
Okay, so when we were going to one station, how far were we pushing it to go into the lagoon from there?
Less than 150 feet.
Okay, so my other question is then, what do you feel, what kind of troubles could we have if we have that main go down? Are we pretty well,
Yeah, if something significantly went wrong, if you lost the pumps or
Yeah.
something totally went haywire, yeah, that's your critical point where all your flow's coming to.
But it'll have two pumps like any other lift station.
Actually, we had 3 originally,
Oh,
so.
well, then we should be, one out of 3 ought to work.
Correct. The only hiccup would be, that I could foresee would be on the force main, typically we have to, at your high points, we have to be able to get air out of the line. So we'll probably need a couple of air release manholes through there, which going through the farm ground, we'd have to discuss how that would affect.
Well, we have force mains now, right?
Correct. But typically in a farm field, you don't
Right.
have this above grade,
Yeah.
where in their release manhole, you wanna be able to get access to it, so.
We got some of those on the south part of the lake. We can't find one of the manholes, I think.
Okay.
so if we have any kind of serious rain that would infiltrate our lines and stuff, could that cause a real issue, or what's our chances on something like that happening?
Don't foresee any issues with that. The pump station will be sized adequately enough to handle your peak hour weather flow, which right now I think is 1.5 MGD, gallons per day.
So, okay, pumping it that far, then,
Yeah, the pumps will be sized adequately for that.
okay.
Just a couple questions that I was talking with Bob Veenstra about this afternoon. A real concern. If you think about rejecting the bids and rebidding, a real concern is you need to know ahead of time whether Grundman Hicks is going to rebid or not. because that is the worst possible case. You come with some alternatives about trying to save money, and then Grundman Hicks decides that they don't want to bid. And remember that King had 1.1 million to work with to get down to low bid to start with. So,
Can you, to make this change, we don't really need to rebid it, we can just
yeah,
alter the,
my feelings are that you have substantially changed the project and you need to rebid. Now, timing on that also could be, if we make this decision at the next city council meeting, it's June 4th, that we could have bids out and you could rebid according to Bob's timeline as early as first week in July.
so why did we not, if this is so much better, why didn't we not come up with this plan in the first place?
I don't think it's better.
It was just one of many options that we discussed. I think, yeah, it was kind of before my time, obviously, but yeah, it was certainly one of the options I think that was discussed previously.
This was Scott and Ron got together with Bob and.
That's all, that's a lot, that's a lot of it, and I'd still hold to my original thinking on this. Whenever you can go to gravity feed sewer, you're so much better off than you are at a Portland. Just the opportunity for problems is less. Installation cost, of course, in this case, quite a little bit more.
So by our next council meeting, you'll be able to find out from maybe both parties if they'd be interested in redoing the project with that change?
I think it's something that we talk about, see where our costs are on this option, and then make a decision from there, so how much savings, or, I guess, what we end up doing with that savings.
So then if they rebid, then you have another 6 years.
Well, that's what they say, that that he could turn it around and you could actually rebid it within about a month. He said, you really only gotta give a 13-day notice on bidding. You know, to be practical, and if you had, especially if you had any ideas of attracting another bidder, that 1 month bid time is not very much. But,
We could lose the bidders.
that's the risk that you run, you know?
We'll find out how much savings we,
Yeah, I think that's where we start.
first that would be.
Kind of figure out how much money we're
That
saving.
could be a big decision.
But then we have to make that decision right away, as soon as we get that info, right?
Yeah. How's that affect our timing with the DNR?
I think my experience with DNR is that as long as you're making progress towards your goal, but obviously it's that window's getting
But you
smaller.
don't see a problem with that?
Overall,
But we did the streets and we postponed that and you're saving $200,000. I'm not saying this is apples
oh,
to
sure,
apples, but.
sure. But not, like I said, my experience with DNR, as long as you're making progress
Yeah.
towards your goal, definitely pretty good to make an issue out of it. I'll say if it
Let's
wasn't.
do it.
I think so.
See what our savings will be and.
As long as you keep them informed and then they're.
I think looking, like, if we have to fix this down the road and have to dig 30 feet in a row, I think that's something
That-
that's important to think about. And I-
That in itself makes me nervous, I can think about, any maintenance issues after the year, because that in itself would be pretty expensive. Trying to find a lead 30 feet down here, after they get there.
So we would be hooking onto some existing pipe right now?
Correct.
You feel that would become an issue with the new types of pipe and the old pipe that's in, that we'd have to go back further with the old pipe and put new pipe in?
That certainly could be a concern. It's one thing you never know until you dig it up, see if it's working. But typically what we do is we come back out, we drop the new manhole in, and have to come back out and lay brand new pipe for 10, 20 feet. Past that, tie back into the existing pipe. I'm assuming that this bit of sewer needs to play in that area. But typically we can make that work, so that's something fairly interesting.
Just going with Carroll, what they're doing down there, they're having big problems with pipe expansion on it. So that's one of my concerns about this, if you're gonna tie into it, that creates a possible leak for it, so I'm just.
Typically, what I've done in the past with different place sewer pipes, typically 5-inch thick wall thickness. You I typically use truss pipe in that situation. It's a PVC pipe, cement, it's interior, and the thickness lines are pretty nice. That's specified that.
How long, that's good to stay underground for
Yeah.
timeline
Yes.
wise?
Like I said, it has PVC liner inside the walls.
And this pipe is not original to the city, this has been put in since the city was built, isn't it? I didn't know this existed.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff was done, well, the last big project was about 76, so it's not terrible.
That's about the time PVC was starting to be used, so not seeing the videotape of it, but
Okay.
All I can do is wait and see what we got.
Yeah,
DNR has approved the PVC.
they have not. As far as the proposed change to the piping in the lagoon.
no.
And
Not in the lagoon, but up to its front.
Up to its.
Yeah.
There you
Up
can
to
do-
it.
Yeah.
There you can
Okay.
have several options.
that's what I was talking
Officially, we had tabled this issue until this meeting, so if we could have some council action to table until the following meeting.
I'll make a motion to table this.
about.
Motion and a second, roll call?
Bolton? Reese?
Yes.
Muller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes?
Tom?
Yes.
Now, don't leave this yet, Mayor, because we got a couple of things. I want to go through a couple of things yet on financing. And I was,
Yeah, we're on money now. Yeah, leave it alone.
I'll tell you.
We may have to jump up and fix it.
Okay.
There, good, take a look at page 20. And this is a lot of the same stuff that was in the previous council packet, but I wanted to go over this a little bit and just point out a few things to you. In that top box, mark the original plan, where we were issuing 4.6 million over 20 years. You see what the annual debt service payment was, $293,000. So that was kind of the benchmark that we would have liked to have shoot at. But then we get into all of these other options about increasing debt to $6.7 million. And this first option was still over 20 years at 2%, and see what the increases are. Option 2 had us borrowing the original amount again, 4.65, but then we would supplement that with the GO borrowing that's paid back through property taxes. So you can see that it would allow for sewer rates to maintain constant at what we had proposed, but then there's an additional debt service levy that's paid through property taxes, and you see that bottom line of the box, that's where it adds $1.57 per $1,000 taxable valuation. For a $100,000 home, that adds $86 to property taxes. What I really wanted to take a look at was something like option 3 and a variation of that, where you have SRF borrowing at what we had proposed, and have some amount of general obligation borrowing also. And this says TIF funds. But what I wanted to point out to you is the box that I highlighted to the right. Instead of using TIF, then maybe we could use sales tax. And you earmark that for an annual debt service. And my suggestion there would be that maybe you could earmark up to $50,000 annually for debt service. We get about $85,000 in sales tax money. So, and we use that sales tax money for different types of capital projects. And we've used them for everything from real basic stuff like streets, but we've also used it for amenities and like splash pad. We used some money from sales tax for that. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. Could be an option. You could finance that partly with sales tax money. The other thing I want to point out to you, kind of relating to that, deals with hotel motel tax money, where we're utilizing hotel motel tax to pay off debt service until June of 2020. And that's about $20,000 to pay off debt service. After that debt service is paid off, that $20,000 is available to you. So what I'm equating this to is kind of like, well, if you had $50,000 in sales tax money you're going to use, Well, you also got another $20,000 that can be used for very similar types of uses. So maybe if you look at that, the net loss over the course of the year isn't $50,000, it's $30,000. You kind of follow my thinking on that? But that is all identifying an alternate way to utilize some different types of revenue. I want to take a look at option 5. Now, option 5 is borrowing that full amount over 30 years. And the interest rate then, this is assuming we're not a disadvantaged community, the interest rate is 3%. But what I really wanted to point out to you is that annual debt service payment there of $349,000. And granted, it's over 30 years, not 20. But if you could utilize some sales tax money, you can be right there consistent with an annual payment about where you had wanted to be at the start of the project.
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years, not 20. Next to, on page 23, that does show you what the difference is if we are able to get the disadvantaged community status, where you're at 30 years and that interest rate remains at 2%, and then the annual payment is $305,000 versus $349,000. Option 7 is just a middle ground on that, on the timing. Is if we were disadvantaged and you could have a 2% interest rate, there's nothing that says you got to go out to 30 years. You could choose 25 if you want, something like that. And that's how that equates for 25 years. Annual debt service payments would be $51.
But option 3, when you're gonna use lost money and then eventually you'll use hotel motel tax, this figure down here, your property tax increase and your average customer cost doesn't include, I mean, that's before you've given that assistance, is that right?
Well, in this case, it showed that money as TIF funds. So we wouldn't use TIF funds, we'd come up with some other way to finance it, and like the sales tax.
But you would have 750,000.
No, you don't look at money up front, you look at annual funds available for debt repayment. So, I don't like that scenario maybe as much as just taking a look at like option number 5, where you just out a longer period.
I for one am not in favor of raising the property tax. I think this is a bitter pill for this community, for sure. But I feel like if everybody has the bitter pill, it should be the people that are using it. And I would like to put whatever funds we can from the city in to help this project, but not just give property owners an added.
How much more are you gonna have to raise sewer?
With each one of these options, it shows how much over the course of the years, and it varies over the course of the years. But the biggest thing on most of those areas is that we had proposed 3 more increases, and you look at these, they'll all have 4 more increases.
Do you think we have any chance at all of this disadvantage? I know Bob wasn't very optimistic about it.
I'm not real optimistic about it either, unless they can just truly look at things as a mathematical function, and we've based this off of the number of households from our census report, which is, in our census population is quite a little bit less than what our service population is. So if they allow that to go, the math works out.
So we will know from the DNR by the next meeting?
Yes. So she assured me that we would know.
Yeah.
So no vacations. No vacations next meeting.
We need to make a decision, yeah. And one other thing related to the lagoon project. Larry Hauser had talked with me about the 14 acres of land that we purchased, and whether the city would have any desire in working with Larry this year, basically sharecropping that land. I guess it's a risk for everybody involved when we proceed with the project, and then you'd have something planted there that just gets torn up right away.
Because then we'd have to pay him for the,
Half the input, yeah.
And keep the weeds down.
And I tell you what, that, John hit on what I think is the biggest asset of that, is that basically keeps the weeds down. Otherwise, we're gonna have 14 acres of land out there that we gotta do weed control on. So there's some benefit to it.
It'd be a good
Yeah,
idea.
it's beans, so it isn't like we're putting corn out there.
No. And if they run some down, well, they're gonna run some down,
But they won't run them all down.
no.
so we're going to share in the cost of the crop, and we'll share in the
Yep.
harvest of the crop if we
Yep.
don't tear it up? Is that what I'm getting from this?
That's how I would anticipate things work. We'd be responsible for half the inputs.
Just on 14 acres, so.
That's 14 acres.
$60 an acre maybe?
Right.
And, you know, that's probably seed and a little spray.
And then the combine with another. Yeah.
No, we don't pay anything for
Oh,
the
he's
farming
gonna-
services, you know, he just gets his half
Oh,
of the
I
crop.
see, okay.
But,
He's gonna do that part of it for, so I think, yeah, and then Ken Curtis, that might be, you know, at what, 60, 75, even 75 bucks an acre, on 14 acres, I think.
Would we need a motion to enter into that?
yeah, and then
Um,
wanna work with you, Dave, on if we need any agreement on that sharecropping thing for 14 acres, but
Yeah, and then what percentages are you talking about, 50, 60, 40?
yeah, 50.
50/50? That's what Larry proposed.
Yeah, at least wouldn't be difficult to put together.
okay. So that was motion then, Terry?
Terry,
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea,
you have a second?
keep the weeds
I'll
down.
second it.
Roll call.
Okay, Reese,
Yes,
Stankin,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Be a handshake should be enough.
it should be.
You would
And
think
it,
so.
you know, I guess,
It would be with Larry.
it's your kid.
That's my,
If
that's
you're all
my
right
opinion.
with that.
Yeah, we've, you know, we've farmed ground for years and never had leaks. You know,
Might just wanna do a memo of what happens if we have to tear it up, you know.
but I don't think he knows that, you know, I'm pretty sure he knows that that could get destroyed by,
Well, he knows that it could get destroyed, absolutely, but
and not.
we
get
don't
nothing.
have the answer about what if, you know, just that
But
nobody
if
gets
it,
a crop off
if it
it.
gets destroyed, do we have to reimburse him for his half of the seed cost?
I doubt it. You do?
Why would you?
That's my understanding. You
I
were
don't
responsible
think so.
for half the input.
Yep.
And then we'd have to reimburse him for the other half of the input.
I don't
Oh, no,
think
not
so.
his half.
That's his.
No.
So we
So our
wouldn't
half,
have
yeah,
to-
we
That's,
could,
that's my question.
That's
our
the,
half.
that's the risk share between both parties.
Okay.
So,
Alright.
I know a hailstorm could come in.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say, yeah.
The white combine.
No, I don't think you could.
Oh, you could, you'd pay for it though.
Yeah, I mean,
We're happy moving on with the lagoon now.
yes, yep.
Okay,
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Todd.
Thanks.
Thanks.
sharpen that pencil.
I will, sure.
yes.
See you, Bill.
See you.
Okay, resolution 1831, we wanna hire Steve at $12 an hour.
Yeah, we did get an application from Steve Moldar as a Parks, 7.5-month Parks employee. He was the only applicant, but Steve will do a nice job for us. He has held this position in the past, and certainly would be a good candidate for rehire. We advertised the position at a rate of $11 an hour. Eric Hawkinson's at $12.50 now, and I suggest $12 an hour.
Mike was getting, what, 14 something?
Almost
We're saving a couple bucks, but Steve's worth the money.
I make a motion that we hire him.
Second,
I'll second it.
roll call.
All right, Reese,
Yes.
Mulder,
Yes.
Stankin,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Boltman.
Yes.
Just, I guess, just to point out, we just approved that resolution, and we hired 2 more substitute harvester operators then too. had a couple more people express interest. Cliff kinda
Will the
indicated he,
harvester go out today?
Yep,
Yep.
it's in the water.
Cliff is a cat mechanic,
Yeah.
and he kinda
He's
indicated
offered
he'd
to
help
help.
out with John
So
on
it's,
some of the maintenance stuff too.
Says there ain't nothing showing in the water.
No,
No.
Ben sent out an email today about it, was a foot deep or a foot high some places, but the water's cold enough yet.
Oh,
As soon as it warms up, it'll grow fast,
well, sure,
but we're gonna be ready for it.
yeah.
Yep. Thank Bill for getting her in right away.
It's taking up space, right?
Yep, they can park their cars out there now. And Denny's, changed all the oil and filters on it. And then, the conveyor's ready to go. And Denny and his son-in-law are gonna put an oil cooler on that Thursday. So we'll have an oil cooler in the, try to cool that oil off. I think that'll help. And today we got a pallet load of parts, so we should have all the parts we need. Unless something broke that we haven't seen before.
Of course, anything you're working with machinery and water, you're just not a good company.
It's like working on a combine that does beans, they break down a lot. Okay, 1832 is our variance.
Yeah, so the Board of Adjustment meant to consider a variance request from Jesse Carroll. And the sketch is unique, it's on page 32. They had proposed that they wanted to put an 8 by 16 deck on the front of their house. So that would be 8 feet deep, or 8 feet coming out from the house. Our average front yard setback up there would allow for 4.5 feet coming out from the house. So they had applied to the Board of Adjustment for 8 feet. The Board of Adjustment denied that request to have the deck go out 8 feet. So if they build this deck, it can only come out to 4.5 feet. They needed some clarification though about the steps, and you see the steps coming out. And this is actually a pretty steep grade coming from the street up to their house. And they had mentioned that it's 13 steps, so they do need a substantial area to get down off this deck down to the sidewalk level. So the Board of Adjustment does propose to grant variance, but it is only for the steps and handrail that would infringe into the required front yard.
We need a motion on 1832 to grant that variance.
So,
Second,
I'll second it.
roll call.
Boltman,
Yes.
Stanky,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes,
Thomas.
Yes.
Now we need a motion to approve the building permit from Jesse Carroll.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
roll call.
Boltman,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes,
Moller,
Yes.
Stanky,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 493, that's our zero lot line zoning.
Yeah, no, there's,
No,
no proposed changes since last time, and no input.
second reading, motion to ordinance 493.
So move.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Moller,
Yes.
Stanky,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Boltman,
Yes.
Reese.
yes,
And ordinance 494, second reading on our site plans. No input on there, just.
No comment.
Do we have that motion?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Moller,
Yes.
Boltman,
Yes.
Reese,
yes.
Stanky,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Oh, one more bit of information, for the floats, today we switched all the lights to LED lights. Thanks to Whitey and Gary Aishide and Dave Asen. So we're gonna have water carnival at least one more year. With LED lights, it should be a better deal,
Well, it's
Yeah.
gonna be a lot easier
by far.
for you guys.
Yes. City Administrator report?
Just this first thing, I listed it as housing, but really one of my main things that I at least wanted to make sure that the council is fully aware of. When we've discussed housing issues in the past and we've looked at any potential development sites, the stock bin site is always one that comes up at least in discussion. And I just at least want everybody to be well aware that the property is being auctioned on June 9th. And get any feedback from the council about whether there's any any desire to do anything there.
Well, I guess I'm not real clear on the property, what can be done there. I mean, as far as what is it sizable for? You know, when we talked to HUD the other day, and it was talked about, what I call duplexes, he called them townhomes. You know, how many can be out there, I guess I'm unclear as to how big that land is and what we can do with it.
How many acres is it?
They listed it as 3.2 or something.
I would say 3.2 more or less.
That's
It
hasn't been surveyed,
about that
right.
more or less.
Yeah. I don't know how it'll end up.
That's what the bed site does.
Yep. Yeah, because all that stuff would have to be cleaned up if we did a subdivision too, so we're,
You think it's 3.2 more or less?
It's,
yep, make sure you say more or less.
it's something like that was what was listed in the paper.
Any anticipations about, I mean, how would you even know what it would sell for?
You just don't, I guess, auctioning. I don't know, but you think about the impact, what you hope is a positive impact if it sells privately and is somehow utilized.
Whose land is it connected to?
Hoax.
Graham Hogue owns all that, the ag land around it. And then it does abut up to the backside of Horseshoe Drive.
Of course, if they shouldn't, you know.
Well, at some point, I think this council needs to make a decision on what we are gonna do for housing. We talk about it, we have handouts, we look at it, we talk about it. And the HUD representative the other day had a lot of helpful information and other agencies that he could bring to talk to us, you know. So it's not an overnight decision, obviously. I just think that we need to focus on a plan at some point.
Which of course we're really getting into that now with the housing needs
Exactly.
assessment.
Exactly.
And that's why, if you're gonna follow the traditional plan, you do the assessment first and you find out what you need and then you can follow through the implementation on that. I guess just know that that's months down the line before they'll finish this plan.
I just would like to see us come together with something, because we haven't really, we just, we don't have any kind of cooperative view, I don't even think about it. And I think this HUD guy was very helpful in bringing other agencies to talk to us. And, because there's, he talked about how the housing assessment will help the banks give loans to a developer or to a contractor or whatever, One of the contractors mentioned was the same one that Bobby Terrell was, wasn't it?
Home builder,
Yeah, so, I just think, a developer's not just gonna come waltzing in here and say, hey, I'd like to help you guys. I'd like to make a little money and I'd like to help you. It's not gonna happen.
I'd
gonna
say
have
that's
to-
the biggest thing.
We're gonna have to but we have to cultivate it. It's not gonna happen.
But in the meantime, this land will be auctioned off and we'll.
Well, yeah, I don't think we can go out here and buy this
No.
land right away, but I do think we need to come up with a plan and try to move forward on this. And when we're speaking to these other agencies, I think we need to be open. I think we need to know that this council has to at some point have a plan. I don't think you can just sit and wait for this to happen. I don't think that's what the community voted on. I mean, I remember the forum, I heard housing, housing, housing. I haven't heard much about housing since. And we have to identify the need, what kind of housing do we want? And it's like Scott said, it's a long path, right. I just would like to see
We won't
us,
fully know that until that study gets done.
Could
we
be a
can know
year.
what options we have.
Well, but if you're looking at, low-income housing, what do they consider low-income housing?
Well, I don't know that we are looking at low-income housing, reasonable housing. I
Well,
think,
that's just about.
I think, well, not necessarily, I mean, you're looking at I think EVAPCO is a huge part of this plan. We need to keep that plan here.
Well, definitely.
So their needs, I think, are huge. what kind of housing do those employees need? Now they're gonna move that draft department down here from Minnesota at some point, and they're gonna be bringing draftsmen in, which is going to be a little higher, probably salary personnel. There's just changes coming. So I guess I'm just asking the council to,
And we need to be ready for them.
well, I think we do, we need to,
Like this lot over
Keep
here
working.
by the church, what happened, whose lot is that, or the city don't have nothing to do with it?
So where's that?
Over here, by the, Pecans across the
Yep,
street.
yep, yep. Yeah, the neighbors bought the house and tore it down, Roberts bought that.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, but that's what, is he gonna sell that again, or that lot, no? Or-
I don't know, but no, the speculation is that, yeah, you know, you just sit on
That's
it
a-
because
that's
you get to choose your neighbor that way.
I know.
He told us, we were out there one day, and he told us that he had no intentions of selling it.
No,
He's just gonna hold on to it.
see, that's the trouble.
But you
with
can't
most of
stop that.
No.
That's,
it. No, I know.
we have no control over that. So we have to figure out a plan for what we do have control.
Well, I think the biggest control we gotta do is get a developer interested in. I don't think I personally don't feel like the city should be involved in. I mean, we wanna put this, the streets and water and sewer and stuff like electric, but I don't think we wanna buy land. I think we need a developer for that.
So how do you think we ought to get to that?
I don't know. I just don't feel like the city should be, you might have, look down here, it took, that's been what, 15, 20 years already, and them lots still ain't all used. And that's that's a lot of money to tie up for,
But there's kind of a reason why those lots haven't.
and because people bought several and they, it's on, is what the problem is, and, you gotta have a developer that wants to build, too, not just sit on, that ain't gonna do it. That ain't gonna help us, the city, any, by not,
So is your idea to not do anything to get,
no, I ain't saying we shouldn't do anything, I just don't think the city should be, like I said, when we have, time comes to put the streets and all the utilities.
but how do we get to that point? That's my question.
I don't know. I don't think we have the money to do that.
But if we don't do anything, if we don't get a plan, we don't work with, whether it be HUD or whatever kind of resources we have, if we don't do anything, then nothing will happen. I mean, is that kind of what you're thinking? You'd rather have that, nothing happen?
At the point we're in right now, I'd say yeah. Because I think we've about got our feet wet enough right now. But, I don't know. I'd like to see it happen too, but I don't know who's got the money to finance something
Well, if somebody does buy it, like Popcorn wants to do something, why, at least we could be open to whatever ideas they come up with. We gotta help them do
like
something.
that. There's some,
We can find
What we
out.
need to do is be informed about what is available. We need to be informed about the programs, the loans, something that you have to entice a developer to come here. Because they're not going to just, I mean, we had one come here, and that didn't go so well.
I don't even know where you put it, the development.
If you think about this, there's just so many different variables, and we're starting to get into a lot of these, want some information on all these programs and stuff, and there's certainly government programs out there, and there's tax credits, and there's other types of things. But then, of course, the lenders are involved, and there's half a dozen different agencies who can have some involvement with this, and the picture gets to be a big jigsaw puzzle after a while, because you gotta get the right pieces to fit together in order to get a good project. But I think that's kind of where we're at now, is we're at least in the education process.
Yeah, gathering information.
We just need to be prepared
Right.
when the time comes.
And I don't think we are.
Yeah, we
Just a couple other things, saw that, and we've talked a little bit about the splash pad, that they were working on the outline of the lake today, and they would get that tough coat painted on tomorrow. All of the sod shows up tomorrow, and we would lay sod. And basically, most everything's done. They gotta get that sign mounted, and there was a couple other things, but most everything's done. We anticipate startup on Friday, and there's a few things that we need to learn during startup time. But assuming everything goes well, it would be open for public use then on Saturday, open this weekend. Camp Crescent project, I just wanted to go through this a little bit with you, and that's what these pictures are. So Bill and Ruth and me and the mayor, we got together with Whitmer Engineering and went through some of their updates. So the concept here is just really similar to what they had talked about before, where we look at these concrete pads. I guess just know that there is not proposed to be any fill dirt hauled into that site. And then actually you work with the existing grade of the ground, and there's would end up being a slight grade put into that so that everything from these new sites drains to the east. Okay, and they're making some changing on alignment of the pads so that they always open up to the wide side of the lot and this type of stuff. So they need to be doing a little bit of work on that. The next page though shows the proposed utility work. Well, this does propose to replace the sewer, a lot of that sewer. And sort of over at the left-hand part of the sheet, you see the existing green line going kind of in the corner there. That's an existing one that goes out into the street from the cleanout station. That's the dump station there where the green line meets the red line. This would propose that we would replace and upgrade that dump station. Then it also proposes then that we're going to replace all of that main sewer line that goes over to this new section over there on the east. And this has it as 8-inch. I think we're actually going to put in 10-inch all the way up to that manhole where it turns and runs down between the concrete paths. This is still plenty deep as it runs this entire way down there, and it was still more than 3 feet deep at the south end of that. So there's still some possibilities, even as you look in the future. Sure would always like to get sewer to the lakefront lots, and that opportunity exists. If we could, at some point in the future, continue on from that. And then this third page, what this is showing is the proposed drainage over there on the east side. They have everything designed so that it's basically a long drainage swale with this has a 5-foot bottom. 5-foot bottom, about 2 or 3 feet deep. What this ends up being is one very, very long rain garden, basically. In our ideal solution, there would be a tile underneath this that drains it and drains to the lake. The hydraulics just don't work on that at all, so there is no tile then that's proposed other than clear down right close to the lake. There'd be an outlet tile down there. But this really would be about the extent of it. You can look at this sheet that you see some of the green lines for the road. The road is altered a little bit, but not widened out significantly, and this really is not proposing to move the fence there very much at all. It was kind of represented that the middle of the swale might be that fence. So if you move the fence so that the entire swale is still in the campground, you're only moving it still, say 5 feet, maybe less, further to the east. Now remember that the city, that land there, even though it's outside of the campground fence, it's public land. Okay, but as we discuss this in the future with the property owners, that they will have an opinion. They aren't gonna like the notion of moving property, so what they consider moving property. I'm gonna level update, but we still look at letting the bid on this project in, say, midsummer, with the goal then that the contract will be able to start work right after. Any comments, any concerns? I got just a couple other things. These are related to the League of Cities. The League of Cities annual meeting is in September 12th through 14th, and it's in Council Bluffs. And if anybody is going to be interested in going to that, I'd like to know. I think it's next week, the reservations open up. And if we want to get in Conference Hotel, then we need to make that reservation very quickly, they'll fill up right away. So, let me know.
Something we should go to?
Well, you've gone the past couple, John, do you think they're worthwhile? You know, I do think it's worthwhile. So, let me know if anybody's interested in that. And the other thing that actually is really looks to be a great program is the League's putting on a small cities workshop, and this is June 12th. So that is a Tuesday night, and it's in Early. It's from 5:30 to 8. And the topic is planning and completing community development projects, including prioritizing infrastructure needs and how to properly budget for them. So it's kind of capital improvement planning for small communities. And the topic is...
But it's the same day as the
Woodbine.
one in Woodbine that
Yes.
we'd like to go to.
What's the date on this one?
June 12th.
But I think we'll have to be back by then to make it to I wanna go.
You're still planning on going,
Yeah, I'm
on
gonna
doing
do
both,
both.
right?
Tammy's going to go, so
I'm okay with Woodbine. I don't know about Earl.
keep up.
I'll go to Early.
Where's Early at, in the school?
Nah, it's in the basement of the municipal building.
Was that a speaker or?
Yeah, the League of Cities will bring in a speaker.
Okay.
Very good.
So does it cost, got a fee to get in or? how is
It's
it?
$45 for the meeting fee.
No.
The league does this annually, been all over the state for special workshops that cater to small cities. And sometimes things are better than others. This just looks like a really good topic.
That's it?
That's it for me.
Anybody have anything else? No, we need a motion to adjourn. Second? Need to adjourn.
They got it.